Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Grand Torino. Delighted you could join me. Please, before we get started, as I always do, don't forget to smash that like button, hit the subscription button if you're new to the channel. Also, hit the bell and you'll be reminded of future broadcasts here on the Grand Torino. Please, if you could, please consider becoming a member of the Grand Stream by clicking on the join button now and help support this platform for as little as the price of a cup of coffee a month. Big shout out to all you supporting us over on the Grand Torino website, World Wide Web, grandtorino.ie. Thank you for your contributions and your donations over there. Links in the description how you can support the platform, and links to the merchandise through Teespring in the description box. Boom! With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to introduce my next guest. By way of special introduction to my members, membership only, you will get this first preview of this interview with myself and Computing Forever's very own Dave Cullen. Dave.
I better be good now after
you
all that.
You better be good. That was a bit of a hell of a lead-in.
Fantastic intro. I don't actually have anything like that. I need to get something a little salty. Yeah, I better be good. I needed more coffee. Now you haven't filled me up.
I have you fed. I have you watered. I managed to set it all up and get us down situated now in this place.
And this incredibly ostentatious swimming pool / library / kitchen / whatever
your imagination takes you, I will bring you there. That is my promise to you. Dave, we haven't had this opportunity, and I think many nationalists that we say on our side will hear. We kind of want this conversation aired. You know, we talk, yourself and myself, we talk fairly openly, and I think at this juncture, considering what we're facing, I think it's time for a bit of honest conversation, but directed mostly at our nationalist, patriotic brothers and sisters here. Where are you on the timescale of things? At this, we're coming in now to mandatory masks on Monday, the 10th. Where are we going to take it from there?
It's a tough one. I mean, in a weird kind of almost humorous way, like if you told me that the New World Order was going to start off with people wearing underwear on their faces, I would have thought you were insane. But it has been an insane year. I think, like you, I thought that we would see globally more of a legal pushback against things like face masks, and different countries are trying different things. The overall trend that we're seeing is more of an uptake on face masks. And the face mask has, like we've talked, you blew in the face at this point, it has numerous effects. Obviously, it's the demoralizing thing. Obviously, it dehumanizes people. Obviously, it robs them of their identity. And as John Waters has very eloquently put together, it reminds the general public, it puts them into that entire atmosphere of fear. It tells them there's still a pandemic going on. So that it does all of those things. But we also know that, and I think we're all quite fearful of the fact that this is going to be a tough winter in terms of illness. Just the stress of this year on all of us has probably reduced our immune systems to one degree. Now, there's not much bugs going around because this is summer in the Northern Hemisphere. But when the winter kicks in, you're gonna see a spike in illness, and they're going to attribute everything to COVID.
Yeah.
No longer are you going to have the sort of going into the workplace and the kind of sympathy of, oh, you're struggling there, you're poor, God love you, go home and you rest yourself. That's not going to be like that. You're going to be basically treated like effectively a criminal, potentially, because you could be sick and therefore you need to be quarantined, which is imprisoned at home. And if we go like they have in the US, you didn't sign your papers to confirm that you're going to quarantine at home or take a test or something, then you'll get the ankle bracelet or whatever it's going to be. So people are going to be very fearful, like the slightest cough or sniffle on the Lewis or the bus or whatever, and it's just going to be paranoid. So sickness essentially is, I don't want to say it's illegal, but it's like it's a don't get sick.
Don't get sick.
It's crazy, and yet we are going to have more of that. And the masks, and that's the most divisive thing. As to just how much damage the mask is doing in terms of reducing your oxygenation saturation levels in your blood, in terms of rebreathing your own CO2, in terms of the microorganisms that form up on the inside that you're rebreathing. People keep talking about this, and there's been video responses done to me, and this is the first thing that people have to understand. They say, well, doctors and nurses wear them all day long. They don't. Dentists don't wear them all day long. Firstly, they're changing them in between patients. They're not in surgery, for 15 hours a day or whatever it is. There are offices in this country and other places where people are invited or asked, or workplaces or cafeterias or restaurants or pubs the pubs are now restaurants, but they, or your barber, whatever, where they're having to wear these things for 8 hours a day, on and off. Basically, you might be able to take them off. Sometimes they go outside or they go to the toilet or something. And more to the point, we know that a dentist is going to wear it so he doesn't cough into your mouth or sneeze into your mouth. It's not to prevent a virus from being spread or communicated between the two of you. If you've ever gone into the hospital, I mean, before all of this, nurses don't come up to you with masks on and talk to you when you're in a hospital bed. They only do that when there's a reason for it, which is if they're in surgery.
In a sterile room, for surgery.
Exactly, as a doctor does. They take them off, and it's we're talking minutes. Maybe if a surgery goes on for an extended period, they have it on for an hour or two, whatever it is, and then that's it. People are walking down. Doctors don't walk down the street in the cold, in the damp, in the humidity, in the rain with this cloth bag on their face, retaining all of these germs. And it's effectively like breathing through underwear or breathing through a dishcloth, a damp dishcloth after a certain point. People are wearing the same mask all the time. Long story short, the effect that's going to have come next lockdown, which I'm sort of predicting October, November, December, January, something like that. And like I say, maybe we could talk about what we think the second lockdown is going to be. But as to what we're going to do on the masks, I spoke to somebody about this recently, and they compared the situation of when somebody protests outside of an abortion clinic, and you can understand, like, people who understand who are pro-life, they'll say, well, there's something noble in that. You're trying to save a life. You're trying to save lives. You're trying to stop people, unborn babies being killed. But we have to look at the optics of this from the perspective of most Irish people who think that we're in the middle of a Spanish flu. Yeah. And despite the fact that Del Manning has died, and all the cognitive dissonance that goes along with how they form their belief system on this whole thing. And, if you are on a bus or a Lewis or whatever, or in the shops now for Monday, as you say, and you refuse to wear a mask on normal grounds of just bodily integrity, autonomy, as opposed to well, I've got a medical reason why I can't wear it. So just say, I'm not playing this game, I'm not going along with it. Most people are going to go, you're endangering life. It's the opposite of the abortion clinic thing. You're endangering life. It's only a piece of cloth. What's the problem? And, similar to what we've seen, whether it's Simon Dolan in the UK with his legal challenge or John and Gemma's challenge here, the attitude of the courts, and they're in lockstep, I think, globally, is, and especially with their common law constitutions, I think, or this constitution here, which really isn't a document that, it's not a document of liberty, I don't think, unfortunately our constitution, it appears that way, but it really isn't. I think this whole business of in the greater good, in the collective interest of the people, is put forward as an argument. And that has been an argument that has gotten the government and governments of the world off from the damage they've done with lockdown. Because you can just keep doing that. You can keep saying, well, we acted in the best interest, we had this data available, and they can sort of push responsibility onto, I don't know, whoever told them to do the lockdown. In the case of the UK, well, Imperial College London said this amount of people went to die. What could we have done? And then guidance from the World Health Organization. As Fiona Marie Flanagan has pointed out, we're vassal states here. We're vassal states, and we're basically taking our guidance on this, on how to deal with the pandemic, from the WHO. So it's sort of like, well, don't blame me. And so I didn't vote for the World Health Organization, neither did you. And so, we don't have an ability to address them directly. We have to just go with our local administrators, which is our government. I think it's much harder now to deal with. I didn't think it would be, but I think it's a lot harder now for us to deal with the mask situation. And I don't want to say we've lost this fight, but I think we might have to focus on the big bad at the end, which is the vaccine. And we're going to probably have to see the mask situation play out and wait for the just sensibility of the public to realize, oh, the mask is bad. Oh, the mask is the thing that's making me sick. Because my worry is that when we get into November, December, whatever, and it's people have a lot of sickness, they're going to think it's COVID as opposed to the mask. At what point do they twig it's the mask? See, this is the thing. I do believe that we should be standing up again. We shouldn't be acquiescing to the mask. But the problem is that we just don't have the numbers here that really understand what's going on. And that's my central concern, is we have to wait till the collective consciousness rises.
We have to wait, as we keep saying, for that inflection point, for that mass conscious awareness or awakening, and realizing to the fact that all is not well, and this is not being perpetrated on a medical ground, this subversion of civil liberties and taking them away. The longer we progress with the masks, as you say, the more it becomes instantiated or becomes the normal. People adhere to it, and people are starting to get suspicious and looking from behind the mask. I know some are basing it on and on the American side as well. People saying that people feel emboldened, those that are weaker, beta males, beta females, and stuff like that. Now, because their virtual signaling is on display, they feel that they're emboldened now. We're seeing tube station previews of people coming over and accosting people for not wearing their mask, for taking that choice to exercise their civil liberties, regardless of whether they had a medical condition or not. But for me now, it's the Karens and the Darrens behind their masks coming over and telling you that you're putting us all at risk, when they haven't fully understood the full measure of the virus itself. That there's no quantification of the death rate. As we said, there's a survivability rate now, 99.98%. But they feel emboldened now to speak out. Do we see this happening over here in Ireland? I think I've seen once or twice from short video YouTube clips where Karens and Darrens have taken it to the next level now, and they will be your enforcers of the medical mask wearing. But that will then carry on over, sorry to point, to the vaccination things. Have you got your passport? Have you got your
digital ID? Have you got all of that? Yeah. And as I said the other day in the episode of How's This a Thing, it is it is a case that people look at. They try to be virtuous, but it's just cowardice. This sort of like, I don't really want to focus on the fact that mummy and daddy government, who are really powerful in my life, they're in every aspect of my life. They're on the floor telling me to stand on these circles. They're telling me to wash my hand. I'm following all these instructions. And, okay, do most of these people believe that this is genuinely the Spanish flu? Probably, yeah. But at the same time, I think, and maybe we don't talk enough about this, there's a fear of the virus. And yes, the mask perpetuates that fear. But at the same time, collectively, as you walk around the city, in Dublin, it's really tough to walk around right now. It's a horrible atmosphere. I think there's also something else, which is an unspoken, maybe unconscious thing. And I'm not saying that people think too much about this, but I think it's like there's a crushing weight of a power that people are feeling. There's a power that's oppressing them, right? And it's not the virus, but they want to almost make believe that it's the virus, and that's why the mask is useful, to kind of perpetuate that belief. And I think that's the power of the state, that they know. I think everyone, even people who are ardent opponents of us, and people who are in lockstep with the whole agenda, most of the public out there who think this is the Spanish flu, even they know they're not in control of their life. Okay, the choice to take a risk, to go outside, and to live normally, and to engage socially in a normal way, and to not wear a mask has been taken away. And all of their choices and all of their freedoms have been taken away. And I think we maybe underestimate. You and I had a different approach to 99% of people out there when the lockdown was on. We were grappling with this, we were researching, we were trying to figure it out, we were trying to figure out how to live. But most everybody else, what the psychological effect of the lockdown did to them, I don't know. But they must have felt something break inside them.
Yeah.
And so rather than address the fact that they have lost control of their life, anybody who exerts a modicum of control by questioning the very lie that has oppressed everybody, they will be shouted down, and they need to, because it's something to that person. You're disrupting my entire worldview that has been the basis of my life for the last few months and most of this year, and
won't let it go. No. We'll just cling on to it and deny reality. It's
a lot easier to conform in a very vicious and filled with conviction to really embrace it, because it is actually in a way the path of least resistance, right? And you're at the moment the globalists are winning, the government is winning, the elites are winning, right? All these technocrats, and so they're on the winning side, right? It's easy, right? It's easy. to do that. And the video you referred to of that gentleman and he's screaming at that lady in the tube in London is a classic example of that kind of cowardice. Instead of standing up to the true power that's oppressing you, because that's much scarier. The government has the police and the military and the media, and it has all the prisons, right? And it has all the scary testing facilities, and it has all these things, and they can destroy you. And you can be put out there and singled out if you're arrested on it and pulled off a train or whatever, and you can be singled out by everybody else in a kind of a social credit shaming kind
easily
of way.
identified,
right? And that you're a problem person. That's terrifying to most people.
And it makes you reluctant to go outside and face and deal with your fellow human beings because you don't know which one to trust. But just to touch back on the subway guy as well, also to note, he was a fairly big, heavy-set guy, and he felt emboldened, as you say, to challenge a woman in a subway on her own, and her only defence is to get her camera out and record it. Whereas you say, he's not ready to take it to the man. He's not ready to put it up to the establishment and do what needs to be done and challenge the status quo, challenge the powers that be that are effectively crippling us in our movements, in our thoughts. And it's an all-encompassing, crushing feeling, as you described. There is that weight now of understanding that life is completely changed. As we know, superficially, as we walk around, we see that things remain and seem normal. But we have that innate sense that there's something on the horizon. Most people will be aware of the financial implications of shutting down the economy for 3 or 4 months. And most people in my term of circle would be aware of what it is, but think it's only going to be a blip. I try to make the comparison that 2018 was just a blip in the ocean to what we're going to face. Statistically, it's already looking way, way worse than
2008.
Yeah, 2008 is going to be a blip in the circuit. When quite clearly the dog in the street knew that we should have taken the pain then and done what was necessary. But this kick into the can, Wall Street, the London Stock Exchange just went printing money because they knew they were going to make vast profits and receive huge bonuses, and I'm all right, Jack. But now that derivative bubble is gone, boom, it's blown out of the water. And it's the ordinary everyday man that's now left to deal with the consequences. And if the state's going to give them universal basic income, that's the slow roll to socialism, am I right?
Yeah, no, it is. And I think this the critical difference between 2008 and now was in 2008, it was like that, and then,
It was a U-shape,
there was an attempt to rebuild the economy after 2008 as it was, right, that we would have SMEs and we would continue to trade with the currencies that we have. This is different. This isn't about a recovery of the existing economy that you and I and everyone else watching has lived in. This is about building a new one. And so, and this is an interesting thing because I've had this from friends and family, and they've said, questions like, because they separate the two economies, right? There's the economy of your local pub and the mom and pop shop and your local barbers and your local florist, right? They have nothing to do with the areas of the economy that the technocrats operate in and the globalists operate in, which is, energy production, which is food production, which is all of our infrastructure, which is the internet, which is pharma, which is, all these things. They want the environment, they want to control basically the means of production and all aspects of that part of your life. So to destroy all SMEs, that doesn't factor into anything at all. If someone says, why would they do this? Why would they? This has to be a real virus. There's no way that they would completely torch the economy. That they'd lose billions. No, they wouldn't. They don't lose from Paddy's pub going out of business, or the florist, or whatever business or your local garage that that's been passed down from your father and everything else. Those businesses have nothing to do with Bill Gates or any of these kinds of people. They're going to get much, much wealthier because they're building a new economy. And the analogy I'd use is this, okay? So you're driving past your neighbour's house and maybe he's got a little bit of land, and you see it one day, you look and it's half disassembled, right? And it's been bulldozed, and you go, what's he doing there? And then you come back the following day and it's completely gone. And then you think, why would he ever bulldoze his house? Why would he do that? That's where he lives. Well, it's a very simple answer. He's rebuilding a new one. And you have to destroy this economy if you want to bring about the fourth industrial revolution, the Great Reset, which is in order to bring that about, they have to destroy this one, launch new currencies. It's going to be Internet of Things. It's going to be all those things. It's going to be crypto. It's going to be more surveillance, tighter top-down control, as Rockefeller described.
All sold under the guise of convenience.
Yeah, all of those things. And one of the means by which it's brought about, and one of the intrinsic aspects of it, is greater control of the populace. This idea that you can't go anywhere without effectively asking for permission first. That's like, how is that not like a prison? It is a literal prison planet that you're not going to be able to go into the shops without showing something on your phone initially, probably something like that, QR code, as we're seeing in places in the UK. And then after a while, it'll be the subdermal thing that you can't see, but you can put your smartphone over it, or a sensor on the entrance of the door along with the temperature check. Boom, it scans it and you walk in. Sorry, you can't come in here because you're not vaccinated and everything else. So that's where we're going. And as you say, the masks, to get back to the masks are the first layer of that, which is that, guys, there's a new means of operating in this world, and it's effectively like a toll. There's a toll everywhere in your life. In order to come in here, you got to first do this, and you got to obey all of these new regulations. So it's in play. New World Order is effectively here. We're in the beginning stages of it. So that's as to what we're going to do. All you and I can do, and our audiences and everything can do, is just to continue to spread the word as much as we possibly can, and maybe there'll be an opportunity in how people react to the second lockdown. It's going to be the transition point from where we are now to the new economy, because the technocrats have to be very careful with how they make that transition, because you can lose people in there. They can twig something. They can, whoa, wait a minute, you want me to do what now?
Yeah. Right?
That's an opportunity in there. When it gets too invasive. I was watching a video by Vernon Coleman, particularly depressing, and he was talking about Qatar, and there's this tracing app that everybody has to download, and so everyone has to have it on their phone, and it has to be running all the time, even when you're at home, right? So, and when you leave the house, the police will check it and make sure it's operating. And that's very similar to what they do in, I think it's Xinjiang, I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but they've been doing that since 2017 in China. To the point where I remember seeing a video from the Wall Street Journal, and this guy was like, I don't like going outside because it's constant checks. You're constantly going through body scanners and metal detectors, and police are constantly saying, give us your phone, just want to check your phone?
Yeah.
So check your papers, please. So what Vernon Coleman was talking about in Qatar, I had to look this up to confirm it, is that the people who don't have this app on their phone get fined something like $50,000, the equivalent of $50,000. And what happened was, the application obviously had some sort of system requirements that a lot of phones didn't have. If you had maybe a simple phone, like I'm not a smartphone user, as you know, or if you had a lower spec phone. So they had to go out, buy a new phone and install the app. So they had to spend the money and get the phone, that's the first thing. So it's almost like the smartphone has become mandatory in a sense, for all intents and purposes. But then there was this weird situation where people were afraid to leave their house to go and buy the phone because they're afraid they were going to get stopped and fined. Even though I'm on my way to actually get the thing to stop the fine, right? So they just stayed in.
Yeah.
So, So I don't know what to say to that. But could that happen here?
Well, I tie in with that as you make the analogy there from Qatar. But going back to the face mask situation as well, I tie that in, and I often make the reference to the panopticon. People change their behaviour. The panopticon is that all-encompassing jail, and you've only got one jailer that controls the whole jail. And because the prisoners feel like they're under constant observation, they modify their behaviour accordingly. So when you feel like your privacy isn't being invaded, you do whatever you feel you're doing it. Now that we've got the smartphone technology, now we know that the phone is monitoring and looking at it. The government has told you now that the app is tracing and monitoring you. The behaviour modification is beginning. Those that will wear the mask and those that will enforce the mask as well are showing their colours as well. And then we class ourselves, as you were saying, as part of the Agora, the new, as James Corbett wrote in the article I read out, and you know James very well, very astute. But he says there's going to have to be the counter economy, or as we'd say, rather than dissidents, we are counter economists. So we are going to form, or it's going to grow naturally, those that want to opt out this new system that's come into place. By which means I say we often say to our subscribers and our viewers and those living here and in various jurisdictions as well, that it's to get out in real world, it's to perform, it's to get involved with your neighbour and those that are like-minded and ready to get on board with this new separate economy, whether it be the barter system, whether it's people that understand Bitcoin, whether it's physical precious metals that you have, but operating out of the beast's entity or the operating system. I suppose the question I'm asking is, that is the future for nationalists, to batten down the hatch, to come together, to form that separate economy and ride out the storm. I don't see where the cavalry is going to come from, and I don't know how long the storm is going to be.
It's us.
But we said we have to choose, we have to opt out of that system. Yeah. You read that story, I'm sorry to belabor the point, but you read out that story of the monologue of the person living in the new smart city where you don't actually own anything and you share the space that you live in when you're not there.
The World Economic Forum article from 2016, which is I own nothing, I have no privacy, and life has never been better.
And that monologue said, well, I feel sorry for the people outside the city that haven't got access care to medical. Is there a future in that?
Yeah, I mean, there could be. It depends how far the panopticon goes, how far it can expand. Now, a lot of people are sort of running to the countryside or considering that at least a way of slowing things down, and I'm sure for a while it will. Now, from what I've heard, one of the means by which they're going to try to get people back into the cities and the large suburbs, the cognitive cities, they're calling them now, smart cities, right? This is the prisons, the high density cities, right? So from what my understanding is that they're going to start saying that there's always been a belief in the environmentalist agenda, and that factors into COVID very conveniently.
COVID-19!
It's very interesting how the two of them, COVID is helping the environmentalist movement achieve all its goals. Like, we're seeing those articles, we need to redesign our cities and build back better, things. What they're basically saying is that human beings are an affront to nature and we're sort of separate. We're not part of nature. This is the satanic aspect of this, the anti-humanistic, and it's in other words, human beings just need to be basically put in a box, like in the Matrix. They need to be put in a pod and just entertained until eventually, they're sterile and just die out or whatever. And it's just a few of us elites left, and we'll have our utopia with transhumanism, and we'll just sort of live forever as cyborg, whatever, hooked up to the singularity. This is their sort of.
And we'll re-sleeve. We'll be able to grow our own organic new suits, and we'll upload our consciousness.
And human beings will be growing in pods. Now, the interesting thing is about the rural aspect of that, is that I think the plan will be to depopulate the rural areas by saying there's more zoonotic viruses. And they'll say, well, it's in livestock now. It's cows, it's anybody near a farm, and it's traveling around in the fields and everything else, and it's absolutely everywhere. And then they'll say, oh, it's in dogs. Oh, I'm going to have to kill your dog. That's down the line, that you just won't be allowed to have a dog in the city and everything else, and man's best friend. So it'll be all that kind of thing. And I think that's how they intend to bring people back. As to how effective that's going to be, I don't know. Will they be able to consistently pull the same trick? And this is the sort of note of hope, is that there is a honeymoon period still here with all of this, in terms of the new love affair that people have with their government, the relationship with mommy, daddy government, and with the media, the trance. How long can it be sustained? How long can you keep playing the same trick before people go, it's bullshit? I know that, I know actually now how it's done, because they begin to twig the Pavlovian aspect of it. They begin to go, oh, every time you say this and this, and that I have to do that, then I have to do this response. Every time you ring the bell, I'm supposed to salivate. So I think there's something potentially in that. Did I answer that question, or did I just ramble on?
No, I think I told you.
What are we actually going to? The parallel economy. There will be. There is a challenge, and people have to get this. So people who are already growing, who are well ahead growing their own food, we're going to need to educate people who are suburban, perhaps more like us, about how to get back to that sort of lifestyle. Seeds are a very difficult thing to do, as we know. Like, organizations like Monsanto and others are trying to make that difficult, so that we are completely dependent on their crap. And then I think that's another thing we can talk about another stage, which is Rockefeller and what they plan to do to the food system. I know that the Ice Age farmer did a really great video on that. So, but yes, in terms of trade and everything else, opting out, it's going to be very difficult. But as you say, part of that is getting to know, is building your community. Now, what is that? Very vague. What does that mean? Well, maybe, you're an accountant and I'm a carpenter, so we can sort of trade our skills in that respect. And so you kind of go, if I'm going to build a new community, what can I offer? What skills do I have that I can offer somebody in exchange for whatever resources they can give me, or food, or whatever it is? So, yeah, but I suspect, they're going to try absolutely everything, cutting the power. They'll do everything to try.
That leads me very nicely on to another part of the escaping or the developing agora, as James puts it. I like the analogy as well, is that people just, when we do come to that, realise that we're going to have to be more self-sufficient. What we're going to have to realise is, from that departing agora or financial market, is it'll have to be done piecemeal by piecemeal. Like, some people will be far advanced. Many of our supporters will be well ahead, will be, solar panels. They'll have their own land, they'll be growing their own food. But there will be an emergence of people leaving the smart cities that will be coming, as you say, fleeing the city and setting up these first-time farm economies or natural economies, and then breaking away from the new digital online depression that's been coming again. They're obviously going to keep pushing. Ireland is such a small landmass. There can really be no true escape.
Yeah, particularly the rollout of 5G being everywhere. Yeah. Because they can very quickly get blanket nationwide coverage, and there will be sort of carrot and stick policies. Like, we don't really know when it comes to the vaccination what they can offer people to take it, and how much they can make our lives, people who won't take it, how painful they can make our lives. And in the meantime, the question mark is I think I'll put it this way. I think, maybe anecdotally, there is an awful lot more, even people who believe this is the Spanish flu, won't take the vaccine when it comes along, at least not right away. And so there's much more skepticism even among the general public about the vaccine, because they know it'll be rushed, and because there's more of a sentiment against vaccines. People are starting to learn about them, and the fact that safety measures are not really in place, and they're worried about the ingredients, and then they're worried about what's been done and the side effects and things like that, and how people have suffered and children have suffered, and the HPV vaccine being one. And so they're starting to learn all these things. They're starting to learn, does it cause autism? There's all these things, and I don't know enough to know. All I know is, because again, I'm not anti-vax, pro-safe vax and all that. But I just think that obviously we don't need this vaccine. We know what's behind it. We know what it's for. We know what it won't be. We know it won't be a vaccine. There's a very good chance that this thing is designed to cause cytokine storms later on when exposed to another vaccine or a combination of medicines that's designed to reduce the population and cause significant death. There's a very good chance that it will, at least if it's containing all this rDNA and DNA modification, that it's designed to do some rather nefarious things, including potentially mass sterility, or that could be down the line, kind of children of men type situation, or that it's passed on genetically so that you're not really technically human anymore, you are a GMO. So all of those things are possible. Now, we don't know what the backlash is going to be, and how much they can bring people to their knees. This is, again, it's all down to how they transition from one economy to the next. Because, we haven't even touched on the Cashless Society. That's a big part of it.
Move on to that next.
Yeah, so the Cashless Society component is, if they manage to completely digitize all money and then control that completely, the question becomes, will people be in such a hole that they will simply go, I have no choice but to take this damn vaccine, otherwise I just can't eat anymore, and what they're going to give you to eat is just going to be rot. It's not going to be real food anyway.
Survival mode.
Yeah, it's by that stage we're talking about. What Rockefeller is talking about, might as well talk about it in the document, is that it's complete change to the food supply, in that you would have genetically modified foods, vegetables and everything else, and the lab grown meat is Gates' thing, right? And that the food, what they're talking about is food as medicine. Now, food is technically medicine if you're eating fresh, good vegetables and you're eating well and you've good diet and you're getting plenty of exercise and sunlight and vitamins. But in this case, what they literally mean is food as pharma. that it would contain pharmaceutical material and all sorts of genetically modified crap designed to alter your DNA that way. So it's even more insidious. So if you don't take the vaccine in the jab or the whatever patch they give you, the microneedles, you're taking the vaccine in the food. And so it's going to sort of be at a certain stage of, well, you can't, how are you going to eat? In fact, this is the thing, the digital currencies that they could be going with, and this is what all communistic states do as they begin to rise, they take your material resources away. Right, so they take so we're in a resource abundant situation, or we have been our entire life, where material is quite abundant, and we can generate revenue and we can save money. But when all of that is impossible, they just take everything away from you, and then they go, okay, we put a barrier around everything. We now own all the material resources because we own all the means of production. We own the environment. We have full control of the energy production, food, water, everything you need to keep going, electricity. We have it all. We've got it all sewn up, and we have the currency. We have the digital currencies that you need. So, in order to get this bag of goodies, which is diminishing by the day, right? And it's not so much. It's actually not much over here anymore.
The bread is starting to be lost from the shelves, as they say.
And it's all delivered. Part of the utopia is that there's never actually anything in there, right? So the whole thing is, if you want any of this in here, first I need you to do this for me, or I need you to take this, right? So at that point, how desperate will people be? Will they be able to look over there and go, okay, so I can take the shot in the arm and slowly die a meaningless death by taking not quite a food pellet, but it'll be your modified bullshit food and by
Soylent Green.
Well, what they want to do is control your diet. And people should look up that document before they think we're going down a conspiracy route here, but it's true. They want to be able to say, you have a daily or weekly caloric intake that you can take maximum. And then they will start taxing people based on the total number of CO2 emissions. And then it's going to be, how much are you extracting? That's the Agenda 21. Let's say, how much are you extracting, or Agenda 2030 specifically, the Sustainable Development Goals. How much are you extracting from Earth, from the environment? How much water do we need to run this city? And therefore, every person, viable? Yeah, exactly. You have to sort of justify, every citizen has to justify their existence. Everyone has to be quantified in terms of their impact upon the environment. And so at that point, it's not going to be, we've been able to go out and choose what we want to eat and go to restaurants and all these kind of things. That's going to be gone. They're going to choose what we eat in the interests of, the environment, the greater good, and stopping the spread of disease.
And just taking it back to another stage, when we say now strategizing and going forward now, we've worked out the permutations of what possibly could, as you see, projections on the way it's going. It's hard to argue with it, and to fully prepare for it, to get our audience and people aware of the necessity now to migrate from their old existence to this new paradigm. Because I'm not going to say we can't go back to normal, but there's been such a disruption now that the going back to normal, even that normal will be slightly different. But my meaning now is that we are still in a good position, as you said earlier on, with the majority of this nation. I think the way it's happened now and it's transpired now because of the run up to the November elections, I think this New World Order agenda has been ramped up and pushed forward beyond its initial timescale. I know we said it's leading into 21, but my point being is, because the frog's curiosity has been pricked, because there's a general unease in the general diaspora or the general nation of Ireland, that they're becoming slowly aware that all is not well. I think with the protests, part of the strategy that we're adopting is that we're holding these events on a Saturday and a Sunday when they're not even there in Leinster House. I think we should now start planning and motivating ourselves towards midweek actions, Monday, changing them, encouraging more, breaking down the normal flow of business, as draconian as that seems, because if we let it slowly creep on, businesses are going to die out. Do you know what I mean? Because the footfall's decreasing, because the regulations are getting more stringent, and because they can't meet their rents, they're going to die out. Pubs are shutting down. They're all gone. The middle class is gone. Bear with a little bit of a second. But by bringing more action like the farmers do, when the farmers come out, they shut the city down. The government has to listen. If nationalists and patriots want to do that, we have to break out of this convenience of demonstrating on a Saturday and going back to Monday to Friday. because that's going to be gone soon. We'll have to take these days off, organise a midweek, organise a midday, and start causing disruption to the normal flow of things. Even if it breaks and irks the back of Joe Normie, who's not aware of what's going on, it'll draw them into the fire. It'll draw them to the light. And they either get burnt by it, or they go, fucking hell, yeah, something's going on here. Get behind it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like so many other businesses. No, absolutely, you're 100% right there. I mean, I'm very frustrated with the pubs and their acquiescence. That just sort of got. I mean, I get it. Like they're still in the matrix. They're watching RT, they're watching BBC, CNN, Sky News, all the usuals. You know, they're flicking through the same mainstream media apps. They don't know. They haven't heard the other side, the other doctors. There's tons of doctors and professors across the world have come out and talked about how this is not what it appears to be and was totally unnecessary. The pub situation, let's be honest, call a spade, they were never supposed to open again. This is what I've described the secular Sharia. You know, the massive cultural changes that, I mean, you know, people say, oh no, it's a real virus. This is the Spanish flu. Okay, well, after the Spanish flu ended, pubs opened again. You know, the new normal is that foundationally every aspect of our society changes forever, and that doesn't seem to be necessary to me if it was just a virus, right? So it's always just been simply an excuse. You're absolutely right, and I think there's enough people off work now, unfortunately, because they've lost their jobs, that they could be in there protesting. It's a question of reaching them. That's our primary problem.
Yeah.
We're not Germany, and they seem to be a little bit further along. Maybe they have more than 10% of their population who not only get this, but really get it. Because I think, I mean, maybe we have 5% here who are kind of on the bubble, but they err on the side of caution, and so they go along with it and they wear the mask.
They won't speak about their politics publicly, and they won't be seen at a demonstration, even though they support it.
But of the people who are in our circle, we're maybe 1% to 2%.
Yeah.
We're actually willing to go, yeah, it's bullshit. We know what it is. We know it's a scam. We know that this is nothing but the New World Order. This is about control. And we're willing to actually go on the streets to do something about it. If we were able to unlock the pubs and get them together in some sort of a united front, I mean, that's it. The business that you've had is gone. It's supposed to be gone. It's supposed to be destroyed. There's no, I mean, the fact that people have not been able to just logically think about this.
Yeah.
You know, you can have a pint so long as you've got a €9 meal. You know, so if you've got the plate of chips and the pint, you won't get COVID. Take away the plate of chips and it's just the pint.
You get COVID.
Right? Do they not actually grapple the stupidity of what we're actually seeing here? At a certain stage, and I have said this before, and it's sort of a tough love kind of thing, it's hard to have sympathy. I have sympathy for the employees.
Yeah, I do.
But I mean, at a certain stage, collectively, these business owners, you got to use, if you don't use your brain, someone else is going to use it for you. And right now, people globally, especially here in Ireland and the UK, they're being operated like marionette puppets. You know, they're not thinking, and they're permitting themselves to outsource their, you know, thinking capacity to the government and the media, and they're just not questioning. It's this kind of attitude. Well, so there's people out there who just sort of know better than me about this kind of stuff. You know, when Varadkar came out and revealed what we already knew was happening everywhere, which was that deaths were deliberately being overcounted, that doesn't make the news.
No media critical.
Well, or if it makes the news, it makes the news in the sense that, yeah, it's a HICWA report says this, whatever, but it doesn't make the news in terms of it being a scandal, which it should be. I mean, a scandal, the fact that what happened in the nursing homes in the UK.
Added to the cervical cancer screens, added to all them lists that have been pigeonholed or memory holed. You know.
Yeah, well, the deliberate euthanasia of the elderly in order to increase the numbers. These things don't make the news, and I thought at this point that we would see more people coming out challenging the government of the fact that they've missed their final hours with their loved ones. They couldn't go to funerals, that loved ones died unnecessarily because we had so many vulnerable people put in a position where they could get COVID in the nursing homes. And these are very elderly people anyway who would pick up seasonal bugs and die from it, but their deaths were nevertheless brought forward. I mean, it's not a significant risk to the rest of the healthy population, especially the young people, and especially the children who are now going to be asked to wear masks in schools. Now that's, to me, there's a few things about that are incredibly, it's all creepy and sinister, but to make children sick, number one, and to traumatize kids at formative years that they'll never forget. Because it is child abuse. I mean, I think I sent you a video of a place, I think it was in the States, and the kids are all walking, you know, in file like this, you know, it's like something out of China. And that fear and the trauma of that will never be forgotten.
No.
And it'll linger with them, and it may in some of them be a permanent damage where they find it difficult to maintain healthy, normal human relations with another person. And parents, again, are just sort of acquiescing, you know. So there's, as John Waters has described this, when you think about it like that, why isn't the media speaking up? Why aren't more people in this industry speaking up? Why aren't the doctors coming forward? They're worried about maybe losing their license. All of the corruption that we're seeing is, as he's described, multiple organ failure. You know, there's always an excuse that someone's able to dole out as to why they didn't speak up, or why they didn't use their brain and go, you know what, thinking about it now, this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, I think that's BS. There's no aspect of this where you go, you know, where people even do something like, I get it, it's the Spanish flu, it's really dangerous, and we should take precautions. However, I think we're going overboard. There's not even that, Rowan. There's not even like that kind of critique in the minds of the public.
No, it's go along.
Yeah, it's absolutely any bizarre thing will go along with it, you know, and even if, especially if it contradicts what we've been previously told. On the masks, you had Fauci, and it's like, whatever he said before, there's no evidence that the masks do anything, whatever. And then a few weeks later, people should be wearing masks, people should be wearing goggles. You know, it just keeps going on. You know, and it's, and where does it go? The next thing, you know, gloves, earmuffs.
I want to sort of where we're coming up to, and we're drawn towards the end of this great interview. This first in a line of conversations, which I'm sure that we'll have going on down along the future. But I want to reiterate the point, and I want to bring to our subscribers and the followers and our side over here in the Republic of Ireland, and get used to the fact that not only should we be having these protests, our demonstrations, our show of dissension, not only in Dublin, but I've often said, and I want to reiterate the point as well, to have them in your local areas, to show your bit. If you can't get down to Dublin, you can't get down to Kerry, you can't get up to Galway, wherever the biggest or the next rally is. I'll remind you again, 22nd of August, this coming in the next couple of weeks, that outside the Custom House, but there will be the Health Freedom of Ireland's demonstration against the mandatory vaccinations and masks and the loss of body autonomy. And it's a non-political event, and I encourage each and every one of you to get down there, share this interview with those in your circle that you think would use this information, that might get behind an idea that is not a political thing, but it's the first of many. But then also to encourage you in your groups, you know, those of you that have been following my channel and your channel as well, Dave, we said, get organised in your local areas. And by way of that, we said it in the political sphere, we meant go off and engage and support the candidates. But I think at this stage, with another prospect of 5 years of a dysenteric government, I think politics is lost to us, and I think we should be looking active dissent. And by active dissent, we should be controlling the roads. Yeah. We should be blocking the motorways. We should be disrupting businesses and encouraging business to come out and support us.
Well, yeah, look, the civil disobedience component is really all we've got. If you look at it this way, what I'd say to people is, so this protest is happening on the August 22nd. I think it's the Yellow Vest, isn't it? And
Yellow Vest, but it's the Health Freedom Ireland banner, but in conjunction with the Yellow Vest.
And there's going to be others, and I know, and we need to be doing these on a regular basis.
Yes,
every week or two. It
does happen. Jean Murray does her GPO, again outside the GPO this Saturday at 8 o'clock. Jean Murray is against anti-vaccination. It's another group, it's another people. I encourage you to get down and support it.
Well, I think, you know, and we certainly need big ones. But this is the thing that maybe people don't get. They go, well, what's going to a protest really going to do? I'm going to stand there and people are going to cheer and listen to speeches. It's the networking component. It's who you meet there. It's the friends that you'll make. And those people are your people. Yeah. Right, in this insurrection. You know, that's how you're going to build a movement. And then it's like people start to go, well, you know, I know a guy who does this, and they start to find out their skills and everything that they can contribute. That's how things happen. I mean, I can't say exactly what people are going to get out of it, but we certainly do need a show of numbers, a show of strength, or as they say, solidarity with our causes. And I'm fully support Health Freedom Ireland. We need more organisations like that. We've seen what the astroturfed civic society of the NGO sector and how powerful their lobby is. We need a counter movement. We need our own organisations in community level across the country to be doing the same thing and to be pushing back. I think a lot of people have said it. I don't agree with him on everything, but I think he's dead right, David Icke, when he says if people just disobey and said no, the power of the technocrats would disappear like that. It's because we keep going along with it. I remember, Jordan Peterson said before, if I stand right up to you, to your face, and you take a step back, as soon as you've ceded that ground, I can keep doing that to you until you're a mile away from your original position. We keep ceding ground, and if you're going to keep doing it, if at no point you stand your ground and they go up, as soon as they do that, they take a step back. Now they take a step back to reload because they're going to try again, but that's where we don't just stand our ground. We take a step forward and we push them a step back.
David, I think that's a great place to finish it off up there. Again, great points.
Pleasure.
I want to thank you for joining me. And before I let you go, please, if you haven't done so already, please smash that like button. Also, hit the subscription if you're new to the channel. And click the bell and you'll be reminded of future broadcasts on the Grand Torino. Please, if you could, please leave your thoughts, comments and witticisms in the comment section down below. Myself and Dave will be perusing through them afterwards and maybe have a little bit more interaction following forward. But again, I always finish up and I encourage you, please, show these protests, these demonstrations, share these interviews on your own social media platforms. Now's the time to embolden yourself. You will unfortunately lose maybe family, friends, maybe friends. It's part of the situation, but it's a growing turmoil going forward that we almost now start up, as the Spiked interview spoke up now. Now is the time to push back and wrench the keys away from the wretched children and start becoming the adults again and start becoming the masters of our own destinies. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you again on the next episode of the Grand Torino.
Was